And welcome back to more Pikmin! So last time, we explored the Forest of Hope for the first time, and met the yellow Pikmin. This time we'll be returning to the Forest of Hope in search of even more ship parts. So first of all, you might notice that certain things like pellets and the grass that we plucked yesterday are back. So certain resources are replenishable, which is really great if you're short on Pikmin, or you are short on flower Pikmin specifically. In fact, we actually have quite a few leaf Pikmin and bud Pikmin in our group, so starting out, we are going to try to get a full squad of flower Pikmin. I kind of waited so we could have a better chance of getting all of the Pikmin flowered at one time. This game is a little bit weird how it treats nectar. Oftentimes, if one Pikmin starts to drink a drop of nectar, no other Pikmin can drink that particular drop. Later games changed it so even if a Pikmin is drinking a bit of nectar, other Pikmin can still drink it as well, which is really great. Thus, I tend to use like weird swarming tactics in order to quickly get an entire squad set up. First of all, we need roughly 20 red Pikmin to carry back the radar we passed by yesterday. Each item actually has two descriptions, one for initially encountering it and one for it being returned to the ship. I'm not sure if I'll be showing every description for the sake of time, but we might as well this time. It's my whimsical radar. With this, I'll be able to see all nearby ship parts in a single glance. I just press plus to check it. This find fills me with great hope. So we just swapped Pikmin while carrying one. You can do that by pressing B. Again, this was added for the Wii version and was not included in the original GameCube version, but it was also in Pikmin 2. So, most of the day will be spent with our yellow Pikmin. We need a lot of bomb rocks, because we'll be taking down a lot of enemies and walls with it. So, with a ton of bomb rocks in hand, roughly 16 it looks like, that should be more than enough. So we're going to start out by tossing 2 up here for later. There's a bulb there and a ship part behind it, so we'll be taking care of that in a bit. Whimsical Radar. This important part can detect the locations of the other missing parts. The radar will be added to my monitor, which I can press plus to view. Up or down on the D-pad zooms in and out. This will surely help me in my search for the remaining parts. I've now recovered 3 out of 30 parts. If I can find just 2 more, I should be able to increase my ship's capabilities. So, each part is indicated by a star, so there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 parts in the area. You're not supposed to be able to get all of them. There are ways around it that speedrunners have discovered, but for the sake of not taking too many chances with some very risky maneuvers, I will be sticking to just the intended parts for now. We have 2 dwarf bulborbs and an adult bulborb. That's an example of it waking up the adult bulborb. It's not too big of a deal, we just have to wait for it to go back to sleep, and then we can try throwing bombs at it like we did before. This is another part here. I found the Nova Blaster. This emits a dazzling burst of light capable of destroying almost anything. I'm not exactly sure about this, but the promotional brochure claims that its blasts can travel in the currents of space-time, smashing through stars and into the rifts of space. This is an optional part, our first optional part, which is really ironic because if he had just used the Nova Blaster, this entire adventure could have been avoided if he had just blown up the meteor. So, another thing that's different is these little partially grown stalks for pellet posies. In the GameCube version, the Pikmin would automatically start attacking them. In this version, they don't, making it much easier to collect pellets without the Pikmin taking down potential pellets before they've even grown. there have been quite a lot of small quality of life improvements that I do think make this generally the better version, but there are a few things holding this version back as well. Specifically swarming, like I've mentioned before, which is why I'm tending to fight enemies like this instead of through direct combat. There are more bombs, by the way, behind the Nova Blaster, so we should be fine. I would like some extra bombs so we can take down this wall potentially, but it's not necessary. We can take care of that a little bit later. I actually had more bombs than I thought I did. So for this stone wall over here, we need 9, and lo and behold, we have 9. So if we can make every throw count, this should work. You want to throw the Pikmin in front of the wall because they can actually become stuck behind the wall. Be very careful about throwing Pikmin too far. In that case, the one just ran back, which is better than getting caught in the explosion, I suppose. So yeah, this is one of the... this is one of the tougher walls. I think 9 is the maximum. Most walls take 3 or 6. But yeah, once it's at its lowest point like this, you have to be really careful about the arc that you don't overthrow. But that should be enough to take out this wall. So, with a bunch of Pikmin in hand, we are going to collect this. So, this is the... It's the Extraordinary Bolt. I bought this incredible bolt because the salesman told me it is of extraordinary quality that is indiscernible to the average person. Exactly what makes it so extraordinary is a secret, but just look at it. Extraordinary. So it sounds like a ripoff, if you're asking me, but it is a required part, I'm pretty sure. Again, it's weird that our first optional part is the Nova Blaster when it could have saved us a lot of trouble in terms of the story. So while we're here, we are going to collect the Nova Blaster as well. If you skip out on the optional parts, you can still get the neutral ending, but you will not get the best ending possible. It's not that big of a deal. I don't even remember the last time I've actually seen the normal ending, because I tend to get multiple parts in a day, making it kind of a moot point. Extraordinary Bolt. This bolt's bolt holds the kind of value that only a true connoisseur can understand. I have now recovered 4 out of 30 parts. If I can find just one more, I should be able to increase my ship's capabilities. And look at that, we have one more. So now we want to regroup with the 2 yellow Pikmin we threw up onto that plateau. To get to that plateau, obviously Olimar can't jump, so we have to find another way around. Pikmin can't swim, so you do have to toss them up to this ledge. But Olimar can, so he can just walk up this little tree branch and easily make it up here. Now, there is a trick to getting this part without fighting this Bulborb involving sleeping as Olimar, but I don't trust my luck, so I'm going to take this a little bit slower. I've made yet another Pikmin-related discovery. Just when I was about to exceed 100 Pikmin in the field, the onion stopped expelling seeds, yet the total number of Pikmin continued to climb. It seems that once there are 100 Pikmin in the field, subsequent seeds get stored inside the onion, thus no more than 100 Pikmin can be in the field at one time in any area. That text box is glitched, so we'll be seeing it again in every area. So like before, we're gonna wait till it goes back to sleep. Nova Blaster. This is a weapon of such incredible destructive force that can blast stars into tiny pieces. It has a strange allure. I have recovered 5 out of 30 parts, increasing the dolphin's capabilities. My search can now cover a wider area. So now we can access a new area tomorrow, but we still have 1 part to get here. That wasn't enough to take it out, but we can finish it off with Olimar, no problem. We won't be doing this much more after this. I think there's only 1 more day where we have to use bombs like this. Most of the time we'll be ignoring enemies from here on out. sort of like a pseudo Pikmin pacifist run at this point. We do have to fight a lot of things, but in general, you really can avoid combat quite a bit. So, I didn't actually realize they were taking something back, but I guess that works out. We are going to use the red Pikmin to carry the ship part back, but in the meantime, I am going to collect this pellet. This is way more yellow Pikmin than we need on a Deathless run, but hey, it's nice to have some extra Pikmin to work with, just in case we need a lot of yellow Pikmin, which is unlikely. So, to throw Pikmin fast onto this ledge, we want to swarm upwards towards the cursor to kind of swarm them around Olimar. If Pikmin are closer to Olimar, he throws them a little bit faster. This is definitely easier on GameCube, where you can use the C-Stick. But it's still perfectly manageable on Wii with some finesse. So there's only one more ship part we are supposed to access, and that is the... It's the shock absorber. This apparatus counteracts the shaking and swaying that normally occurs during flight. It's smooth sailing with this in place, usually. So this should take about 20 to 30 Pikmin. I actually don't remember the exact total, it's 30. You can often put more than the required number onto a ship part, which just means it gets carried back a little bit faster. This game is a little bit glitchy though, like 20 Pikmin can carry a bulb orb, but oftentimes if there isn't a clear spot for it to hold onto, the Pikmin will just give up, so we only have 19 on there right now. Being a launch title, it's not the most technically stable game, especially compared to its sequels. But it's mostly functional, I'd say. Not too many glitches beyond the crushing glitch. Shock Absorber. This nifty little device counteracts the shaking and swaying experienced in typical spaceflight. I have now recovered 6 out of 30 parts. If I can find just 6 more, I should be able to increase my ship's capabilities. So obviously we'll need to go to a new area because we have basically tapped out what we can do in this region. In terms of ship parts, but not in terms of things we can do. There are a few more things we can set up for later. By the way, enemies do respawn over time. That won't be too big of an issue because we haven't fought that much, and most of the things we've fought, like in this area, we won't really need to come back here at all, so it's not going to be too big of a deal. I'm going to do something dumb. Maybe don't try this, but this is a speedrun trick that I am actually familiar with. So if you toss a yellow Pikmin just right at this wall, you can actually make progress on this wall early. You're supposed to use a different type of Pikmin for this, but this is technically possible with a yellow. If a Pikmin is drowning, just repeatedly call them, and they will return to shore, hopefully, like so. So when we come back to the Forest of Hope later on, this wall will already be pretty weak, which is good, for reasons that'll become apparent later on. We can also work on this wall over here. I want to save 6 bombs. I've, 14, so that's way more than necessary. There's also Nectar over here, which is kind of cool. Not a great spot to maneuver Pikmin, though. There's also an enemy behind here. And if we check the radar, there is also a ship part back in the corner. So we will have to fight that eventually. Actually, you can ignore it. But also, I didn't actually stop and explain what I meant earlier. So if you press 2, Olimar will lay on the ground. He actually has invincibility when he does this. So a potential strategy for collecting certain ship parts is to basically wake up an enemy with Olimar, have the Pikmin start to transport a part, and then lie on the ground. The enemy should attack Olimar instead. In the case of the shock absorber, it's kind of risky, so I didn't go for it, but that is an option. Wait, did that only take 3? That is fewer than I expected. Here's another trick that works really well on the Wii version that's a little bit trickier on GameCube. We have a 10 box here, but there's water. So obviously you could take the Pikmin into the water and toss them from this angle, once we have waterproof Pikmin, but in this version, because we can throw Pikmin a little bit farther, we actually can move this early. I'm not gonna do that because when we come back to the Forest of Hope, we'll just take care of it then. We have 2 more days here, by the way. Again, hypothetically, we could collect everything in 1 day, but I'm not that good at the game. So we're just gonna take it a little bit easy, compared to what is possible. So we have a total of 143 Pikmin. Most of which I would say are yellows at the moment. Not yellows, a lot of which are yellows. We have 80 red Pikmin right now, and tomorrow we need... How many red Pikmin do we need tomorrow? About 60, so we have plenty of flower Pikmin for later. But hey, it never hurts to have some extras. At one point we will need about 100 red Pikmin, potentially. Actually, we really don't. 80 really is sufficient. The game does give you, like, scores at the end. Like, it lists, like, your best score for Pikmin raised and other, stats, but you really don't need that many Pikmin. I think it's actually possible to beat the game with, like, only 50 Pikmin, even. But it can be a fun challenge to see how many Pikmin you can raise within the 30-day time period. So, with how yellow Pikmin and bomb rocks work in this game, we have a bunch of yellow Pikmin just carrying around bomb rocks. So in the GameCube version, you could just toss them and then call them back and then drop them. In the GameCube version, if you wanted to toss a Pikmin and then have them not put down the bomb rock, you just have to kind of tap them like that. In this version, it's a little bit harder because they won't drop their bombs under normal circumstances, so just kind of send them back to the onion and then call them back like that. That's, to me, the best way to get them to drop their bombs. Something else worth showing off. You can also end days a little bit earlier if you like. We only have a few seconds left, but we might as well show this off. So you can go to sunset at any time. Three days since impact. I now add yellow Pikmin to my list of discoveries. These creatures can build bomb rocks, so perhaps I can use them to blast down rock walls and open up new regions. Red and yellow Pikmin as well as bomb rock carriers break into squads when dismissed with C. If I grab one for a moment by holding A, I can swap Pikmin by then pressing B. We raised even more Pikmin, and didn't lose any still. So far this Deathless run is going really smoothly. And that wraps up day 3. A new area has opened up because we collected 5 ship parts, and we'll be exploring the Forest Naval starting tomorrow. So, thank you for watching, and I hope you'll join me next time for more Pikmin.